Welcome to this deep dive. Today, we're zeroing in on a really significant development in the pharma world. That's Novartis acquiring Regulus Therapeutics back on April 30th.
Right.
And this isn't just, your standard biotech deal. It feels like a landmark event. It signals big pharma getting really serious about the next wave of RNA
Absolutely.
medicine.
Especially for diseases that have been, incredibly tough to treat historically.
Exactly. So we've got all the details here, and our mission today is really to unpack why this is such a big deal.
And the numbers themselves are significant, potentially up to $1.7 billion, all centered around this one therapeutic candidate, farabursen, for ADPKD.
ADPKD, right. Autosomal dominant polycystic kidney disease.
And it just speaks volumes, I think, about where the big players see therapeutic innovation heading.
It's definitely a strong signal about RNA-based approaches moving beyond maybe the more traditional targets we've seen.
For sure.
Okay, so for anyone listening who might not be deep in this field, ADPKD, it's a really challenging genetic condition.
Oh, absolutely. It affects, I think, over 10 million people worldwide. You get these cysts forming on the kidneys. They grow. They damage the tissue over time.
And often leads to kidney failure eventually. Yeah.
And right now, treatment options are, pretty limited. Mostly supportive care, managing symptoms.
So the idea of a therapy like farabursen, something that could actually slow down or maybe even stop the disease progression, that's huge for patients.
It really is. And the key insight here, I think, is how farabursen works. It's a microRNA inhibitor. Specifically, it targets something called miR-17.
RNA inhibitor, maybe break that down a bit. We hear a lot about RNA interference, RNAi.
Right.
Yeah.
So many early successes in RNAi involved SIRNAs, small interfering RNAs. Think of those like really precise molecular scissors. They target a specific messenger RNA molecule and basically tell the cell, make less of this one protein. Very targeted.
Okay, like hitting one specific switch on a factory machine?
Exactly. MicroRNAs, though, are different. They act more like master regulators. One microRNA can influence the activity of a whole network of genes.
So not just one machine, but maybe adjusting the central control panel that affects several machines at once.
That's a great analogy, yeah. This potential for broader impact is really powerful. But, historically, that also raised some flags, concerns about potential side effects if you're hitting so many pathways.
Right, the off-target effects.
Precisely. So what's really interesting here, and why this Novartis deal is so significant, is it suggests a strong belief that Regulus has cracked that nut, that they've found a way to harness this miR-9 inhibition specifically for ADPKD, effectively and crucially, safely.
That's a really important point to highlight. There was skepticism, or maybe just caution, around miR-9 drugs because of the
valid questions about safety, delivery.
So this huge investment, it signals growing confidence, right, that the field is overcoming these hurdles through better chemistry, better targeting.
Definitely. Advances in the actual drug chemistry, and maybe even more importantly, in the delivery mechanisms, getting the drug precisely where it needs to go.
Delivery. That's another really exciting angle here, isn't it? Our sources emphasize how many of the earlier RNAi successes were liver-focused.
Yeah, the liver's kind of naturally good at soaking up certain types of molecules, especially when you add specific targeting ligands. So it was the logical first target for many RNA therapies.
But farabursen is aimed at kidney disease.
Right.
That suggests we're making real progress in getting these therapies to other organs beyond the liver.
It's like, imagine we figured out how to reliably ship packages to one main distribution hub, the liver. Now we're developing the local delivery network, the technology, to get packages to specific addresses, like kidney cells.
That makes sense. So it's not just liver
Precisely.
anymore.
Farabursen seems effective in reaching the kidney tissue, likely using things like GalNAc conjugation to target specific cells there, the proximal tubular cells. That's a major step.
So GalNAc. That's a type of sugar molecule used to help target the
drug.
drug.
It acts like a key to unlock entry into specific cell types that have the right receptor. It's been very successful for liver targeting, and now it seems to be working for certain kidney cells, too.
Okay. So connecting this to the bigger picture then.
Yeah.
If we can get RNA therapies effectively to the
it means
kidney,
the potential range of diseases we can tackle with RNAi just got a whole lot wider. It's not just liver diseases anymore. It opens up possibilities for conditions in, potentially many other organs that we previously thought were out of reach for this kind of approach.
Okay, so let's zoom out a bit then. Thinking about the whole RNA therapeutic sector, we know there are established players, right? Alnylam, Arrowhead, Ionis with antisense. How does Novartis jumping in like this with this specific technology reshape
Well, first
things?
off, it's just massive validation for the whole field, especially for mRNA approaches, which were maybe seen as a bit more challenging.
Mm.
And look at the deal structure. That's $7 per share up front, plus another potential $7 per share tied to hitting regulatory milestones. That's a contingent value,
Right.
right? Or CVR.
Okay, so what does that structure
It shows
tell us?
Novartis has strong belief in the drug's potential, hence the significant upfront cash. But it also manages the risk, you know? Drug development is inherently risky. That CVR portion means they pay the second half only if the drug actually progresses successfully through approval. It's a smart structure.
Balances risk and reward.
Exactly. And that level of commitment, structured like that, from a giant like Novartis, it sends a really powerful message to investors.
We're trying to message.
We can probably expect, increased interest, more investment flowing into RNA-focused biotechs, especially companies that have innovative targets outside the liver or novel delivery systems.
So it sounds like that older idea, the sort of first-gen view of RNAi liver only, maybe only rare diseases, that's really shifting.
It absolutely is. Our sources talk about this emerging paradigm where RNAi is seen as active in multiple organs, targeting not just mRNA, but also regulatory RNAs like microRNAs, even long non-coding RNAs.
And tackling bigger chronic diseases now, like kidney disease, maybe cardiovascular.
Precisely. And crucially, Big Pharma is actively stepping in, not just leaving it to smaller biotechs. Novartis here is a prime example.
So who are the key players we should be watching in this evolving
Well,
landscape?
you mentioned some. Alnylam is expanding into CNS, heart, eye targets. Arrowhead has been a pioneer in extrahepatic delivery lung, muscle, kidney targets. Then you have companies like Silence Therapeutics, AeroBio, Dicerna, which got acquired by Novo Nordisk, Cernaomics pushing delivery, Ionis in the related antisense field.
And now Novartis, making a big bet specifically on mRNA and
Right.
the kidney.
So for investors, this Novartis Regulus deal, it signals a few key things. One, the economics of the RNAi field are maturing. It's not just about platform proof of concept anymore. It's about clinical value in larger populations.
Okay.
Two, it validates these next-generation delivery systems that can actually get drugs beyond the liver.
Making those non-liver assets suddenly look a lot more valuable.
And three, it opens up new opportunities around these non-coding RNA targets, like mRNAs.
Okay, fascinating. Beyond the sort of market and investment side, what about, say, the regulatory environment? Could a deal like this influence agencies like the FDA?
That's a really interesting question. I mean, potentially, yes. When you have a major player investing heavily in a novel approach like mRNA, inhibition for a disease with significant unmet need, it certainly increases the exposure and, you'd hope, the understanding of regulatory bodies regarding these newer modalities.
Makes them more familiar, maybe streamlines future
Possibly.
reviews.
It could also spur the development of better biomarkers, ways to specifically measure the effects of tweaking these non-coding RNAs.
Right, because you're not just looking at a single protein level going down.
Exactly. And maybe, just maybe, for diseases like ADPKD that progress quite slowly, it could encourage more flexibility in clinical trial designs. Adaptive trials, perhaps, to get promising drugs evaluated faster.
Interesting point. Okay, so let's try and distill this down. This Novartis acquisition of Regulus, it's clearly more than just Novartis bulking up its pipeline.
Oh, definitely.
It feels like a major thumbs up for RNA Therapeutics as a viable strategy.
A big validation.
It clearly shows RNAi is breaking out of the sort of liver box.
Yeah.
Delivery to other organs is becoming
Absolutely
real.
critical development.
And it signals to the whole industry, investors included, that we're really entering a new phase for RNA medicine.
A phase focused on broader applications, chronic diseases, multi-organ targets.
Yeah.
It's exciting.
So hugely significant for people living with ADPKD, obviously, who desperately need
Without
better
a doubt,
options.
this offers real hope.
But also really significant for the broader future of medicine, suggesting RNA therapies are poised to tackle a much wider range of conditions.
Exactly. We're starting to unlock the potential that's been talked about for years.
Which really leads us to that final thought, doesn't it?
Yeah.
If we can now effectively target the kidney with RNA, what else is next? What other conditions, maybe things currently seen as untreatable, might become addressable as these delivery technologies keep improving? And as our understanding of all these regulatory RNAs like mRNAs gets deeper.
Where does that point? Future investment, future research.
Definitely something for all of us to think about. Thanks for diving deep with us today.